This is Aussie Mac Zone. We'll cover everything Apple, including Macs, iPhones, iPads, and more. All this from an Aussie perspective. Sit back, relax, and insert yourself into the zone. The Aussie Mac Zone.
Hi everybody, welcome to show 233. We're rocking on. Now, remember this week's sponsors, athwebhosting.com.au, aussietechradio.com, and we have tonight Zarn and Garth. How are you, gentlemen?
Very well, thank you. How are you both?
I'm excellent, thank you. Good to be back.
That's great. I'm glad you're back again. And I'm dying. Had a cold all weekend, so hence my little uppy voice tonight.
He says cold. I say lazy.
Cold, lazy, yeah. That's all about the same.
So everybody should put a hanky over their speakers so I don't give them a cold, please. That's listening. So what about third-party watch faces? Maybe. So since the Apple Watch was introduced, developers have been asking for the ability to create their own watch faces. Currently, only Apple can provide watch faces. While some of them have content from Pixar and Disney, the reasons for the lack of third-party faces can be many, including Apple's desire to control the experience and branding as much as possible. But code has been found on watchOS 4.3.1 suggests this could change in the future. A component of the Nano Time Kit framework responsible for watch faces implements a developer tools server that's probably designed to communicate with Xcode running on a Mac. One of its methods has a very interesting log message, which reads, "This is where the third-party face config bundle would happen." Now, it's clear from the wording, the message that this feature is not implemented at the moment, but it's definitely something Apple has planned. This new compatibility could come as soon as watchOS 5 or be dropped altogether. I personally hope they go forward with it, since I'd be pretty cool to be able to install a new watch faces on my Apple Watch. So, gentlemen, obviously you're all thinking about something you'd want on your watch.
Well, either a Star Trek or Star Wars. Either way, I'd be happy.
I'm in the same pool as Garth is in.
Okay.
Either way, I'm happy with either.
Yeah. Just, make sure the licensing is there, or, come on, guys, let's get behind this.
Well, if there
Disney
is,
Disney own it all now anyway.
Exactly.
So come on,
so
Disney.
we'll definitely be able to get Star Wars because, Disney already own Star Wars. So why can't, if we can get, some of the other Disney ones, then give me Star Wars already.
I think I'd prefer Trek, but, I'll be happy with Star Wars.
Yeah, look, I'm a pretty big Star Wars fan myself, but I've also seen every single episode of every Star Trek ever made. So more than once.
No, there's no
What happened to like Tag Heuer or something like that? Like they could be selling watch faces, $1 each or whatever, and just have their brand name out there with a fancy looking face.
Do they own starships?
Babylon 5, maybe?
No, they have rocket ships.
I'm doing a Mac podcast, right? Not a fashion podcast. I'm a nerd. I like Star Wars.
What's wrong with the way I dress?
That's right.
This dress looks good on me.
That's right.
Sorry, man. We're killing it.
I didn't get to that mute button quick enough.
I didn't know we had a mute.
Someone found it once, but they never turned it back on, so we banned it.
Yeah. In-app purchases are more successful now than ever, new data shows. A new report from Sensor Tower this week shows that in-app purchasing continues to be popular among smartphone users and developers. The analytics firm says that iPhone users spent 23% more on in-app purchases in 2017 than they did in 2016. Intelligence data from Sensor Tower reveals that the average amount spent per active iPhone hit a new of $58 last year compared to $47 in 2016. Of that 58, games contributed to about 36, followed by entertainment, music, social networking, and lifestyle applications. Now, these numbers include purchases that are made through Apple's first-party in-app purchase system, such as recurring subscriptions in apps like Netflix, And it doesn't include purchases made in apps like Uber and Amazon, which Apple doesn't take a revenue cut. Now, in terms of downloads, Sensor Tower data indicates that there were an increase of 10% in terms of apps downloaded per phone, with that number rising to 45. US iPhone users installed an average of 4 more new apps in 2017 compared to the year before, the company says. Interestingly, photo and video app installs decreased by 10% year over year, while games increased 7% and lead the way. And just one little subject, because we were talking about the game Fortnite last week.
Yep.
Apparently, they're making $2 million per week in-app purchases with things like dance moves. So when you defeat your opposition, you can taunt them with your groove on.
Yeah, it's just crazy, isn't it?
I was actually doing dance moves 2 days ago on Fortnite. Now that you know, I went and thought I'd download the game and see what it's like, and now I'm playing it. So 2 days ago.
So stop spending money before I get into trouble.
So I was doing dance moves towards somebody because they tried to shoot me and missed.
So I'll take back my comments about it being ridiculous.
So a reminder, this week we are brought to you by athwebhosting.com.au, which have a friendly help when needed. They have a 24/7 ticket support, all from $5.95 per month when paid annually. They use the C panel, the industry standard user-friendly feature-rich control panel. Over 250 scripts installed with one click, instant activation, free setup, auto setup, domain registration, 99.95% uptime, and affordable and competitive plans, like I said. So don't forget athwebhosting.com.au. Now, Apple loses court battle over counterfeit iPhone parts in Norway.
Yes.
A Norwegian repair shop owner, Henrik Husby, got a cease and desist from Apple letter about his use of imported aftermarket iPhone screens. He was issued a cease and desist order and threatened with fines, but fought the company in the courts and won. Husby, who owns a small electronics repair shop in Norway, had a shipment of 63 iPhone 6 and 6S replacement screens from Asia, seized by Norwegian customs, according to Motherboard. The Norwegian government notified Apple, and a lawyer represented the company proposing a settlement, which would entail Husby paying $3,500 US, destroying the screens, and promising to no longer sell or deal with any products that infringe on Apple's trademarks. He refused the settlement and took Apple to court. The case hinged on the question of how exactly Husby obtained the Chinese parts and how they were marketed. Now, a question of the grey market. Husby, like many repair shop owners and technicians around the world, purchases replacement parts from the Asian grey market. Many parts, such as the ones Husby used, were broken parts from the original manufacturer that are refurbished by a third party. These parts had Apple logos originally, but were covered up by an easily removable media during the sale process. Whether these count as counterfeit is the crux of the case, and Apple says they are. But Husby and his team argued otherwise, and the court agreed. Now, and especially important in this case is whether Husby had used components with Apple logos. Husby, according to Vice, bought the screens with the logos covered up and kept it covered up since he didn't want to market it as Apple manufactured or imply that it was. So, unlike 400 million other shops around the world, he doesn't take the tape off.
So these are actually, well, they are refurbished screens and so forth from devices, from iPhones.
Yep.
Apparently
so they are actually Apple devices or whatever. They're actually Apple parts.
Apple parts.
Yeah,
not new, obviously.
New glass put on or something like that. The old glass taken off, the new glass, I don't know, but that's the sort of way I read that.
Yeah, right.
So he wasn't saying they were Apple. He was just saying...
No, yeah, totally. No wonder he won.
So he was getting the screens. So the screens were broken. And so whatever someone was doing with those screens, they're sending them to these guys clearly, and then they take the broken glass out, put their glass on top of it, and then send them back as their product. Is that correct?
Something like that.
Yep.
Don't know.
So,
Yeah.
and Apple was upset that they weren't getting that business. Is that correct?
Of course.
Well, that's
They
ridiculous.
should be buying the whole new panel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really, though?
Yeah.
At Apple.
Mm.
I
mean, I do buy all new parts, but, some people, if it's going to save you a few bucks or whatever, like, there's no guarantee and no warranty, so you do what you do, but I don't see the problem with it. It's not fringing on their market, clearly, because they've made more money than they normally have. Anyway, sorry.
That's all right.
That's irrelevant, though. It doesn't matter how much money they've made or not. It's how much can or should have they made from this particular transaction, as far as they're concerned.
Yeah, and that's the problem with the world.
So some of the challenges were that Apple have even in the latest, and this has happened previously on other iOS updates, some third-party screens stop working.
Okay.
So your phone stops working just with an update. Now, that's not fair on the customer who, I've had a phone repaired by someone who said, "Oh yeah, it's all Apple parts," and then they put a iPhone 5 screen in a 5S, and you never get your touch screen, your touch ID back.
Yeah.
Not working.
Right. And then they say, "Oh yeah, we'll sort it," and then 4 months later, nothing's happened. So hence, I have a lot of people calling me and asking me about people repair centres in Penrith. I only send them to one place in Penrith, but I generally send them everybody to another place in Bondi. So yeah.
Well, the iPhone 4 I have at home as well. The screen was a aftermarket screen, and it just died one day. It just went black for no reason at all.
Yeah.
Like it just decided it didn't want to work anymore. Like I said, you pay for what you get. So, yeah.
So here's an interesting leak story that we've got next. Apple memo reveals 29 leakers caught last year, urges staff to stop leaking confidential information. Isn't that a great title for a leak, for a leak story? Posted to its internal blog, the memo reveals Apple had caught 29 leakers last year, adding that 12 of the former employees were also arrested for their actions. These people not only lose their jobs, they can face extreme difficulty finding employment elsewhere. The memo states highlighting the potential consequences of leaking, highlighting a case from last month where the company caught and fired an employee who had leaked details from an internal and confidential meeting relating to the firm's software roadmap. The memo, published by Bloomberg, notes the employee admitted to Apple investigators he did it because he thought he would not be found out. Apple boasts that this is not the case, and its effort to plug leaks has led to employees, contractors, and suppliers who do these actions being caught faster than ever. Apple has invested in its internal investigations to identify and catch leaks as early as possible. The memo cites a gold master of iOS 11 ahead of last September's event, which included details relating to an unannounced iPhone 10 and unreleased operating system, with the employer responsible identified and fired within days. There are several employees feeding confidential data about their iPhone 10, iPad Pro, AirPods to a blogger at one of Apple's focused online publication. Global Security is also credited as working with suppliers to prevent thefts of Apple's intellectual property. Pardon me, as well as leakers improving security with firms to meet or exceed Apple's expectation. Pardon me. So yeah, they're cracking down on the locals, which I think is a good thing, right or wrong. But yeah, there's a lot of people.
Your
working
employer
there.
says don't do it, so you don't do it.
Exactly right.
Not that aside, we love it when we hear the bits of gossip and stuff, but
yeah,
it's.
There's a lot of people with a lot of things at risk, and it's multi-millions of dollars at risk these days, isn't it? So, because it only takes one bad press release and people's shares go down
Well, there's that,
40%,
yeah,
20%, 10%. So somebody's retirement they're playing with. Now, here's one that I like. US lawmakers asked the FBI director to explain decision to take Apple to court. A bipartisan group within the US House of Representatives sent a letter to FBI Director Christopher Wray on Friday looking for answers on why the agency took Apple to court to unlock iPhone of San Bernardino Syed Farouk. The group consists of 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats who expressed concerns about a recent report from the Office of the Inspector General, which found the FBI didn't exhaust all options before making demands from Apple. And the FBI may have skipped alternatives precisely because they wanted the suit against Apple to go forward, the letter suggested. Moreover, the people argued stories about unlocked tools from firms such as Celebrite and Grayshift, which may now be relatively commonplace, could put a lie to FBI claims that communications are going dark to law enforcement and spy agencies. The FBI states that it has about 7,800 devices it can't break into because of encryption. And some officials have regularly pushed for laws that would force tech companies to create backdoors. There's that word, backdoor.
Oh, we love the back door.
I don't know if that means the same thing.
But, so get into them. That's what I believe. Like, there had to be more to it, didn't there?
I don't know. It was probably a convenient case, right, where they thought they'd get good public support.
Yes.
Yeah.
And did they?
Yes and no. Yeah, pretty much yes. Maybe
Yes.
not in the tech sphere, but certainly in mainstream, I think they did, yeah.
Yeah, but it's good to see the pollies asking the questions, I think. So, yes. Now, a reminder this week, we are brought to you by Aussie Tech Radio at aussietechradio.com. We have our sister shows, Aussie Tech Security Podcast, the Aussie award-winning Aussie Tech Heads Podcast, and our new Aussie Tech Crypto Podcast, and other podcasts from around Australia on aussietechradio.com. So just turn it on, listen to it, enjoy your day while it's just playing in the background. So have we got any more stories we'd like to touch on, gentlemen, before I've got a few how-tos for a change.
Oh, the how-tos look pretty good. Let's go.
Yeah, because
Unless you've got something to say.
I just wanted to know what you guys thought about this whole Zuckerberg court case thing. Have you been watching? Did you?
No, I haven't seen any
Did
of
you
it.
watch it? No. Did you hear about it or anything?
Yeah.
It was pretty funny.
Seems like he just sort of stonewalled them, basically.
He did.
Oh, I'll get back to you on that one. I'll get back to you on that.
Yep. And because some of the congressmen or Senate, I should say, were the questions they were asking, because they're older blokes and clearly didn't have, either social media or a grasp on how a computer works, for that matter, or the internet.
So what was the point?
Some of the questions they asked, he just made them look like fools, and basically ran them around in circles with silly answers and then made them look like idiots. But now, if you go onto Facebook, there's a big thing up as you log in, and at the top it says, "We care about your privacy," and they want you to go in and check about who you're using and everything like that, who you're giving your data to, and you can delete them if you want, if you don't want to use them, and you can sort of do a background check of your own, I guess, if you're that inclined, and So
I don't know. Do we think this is the beginning of the end of, or is it just they're way too big? There's too much momentum.
Facebook, it's not the definitely not the end of Facebook.
No, because
the beginning of though.
Maybe
no.
Younger kids now are using more Instagram anyway. Facebook,
Snapchat even still.
Yeah, Snapchat still. So the social medias are there. Facebook is still the main one, but there's other social medias. If people don't want to use them, they can go and come back and go and come back. I think bring on MySpace. I say, give me MySpace back. And play some music, have my own background. I'd like to see Tom.
Visit from Tom. Yeah,
that's it.
Facebook is just so much in terms of families that
Yeah.
once again, the blogosphere, the technorati, whatever you want to call people who are interested in tech, might look at other things and might not really want Facebook, but all of our families do.
We're here now, aren't we?
Yep,
we're on
right.
there live.
We're live on Facebook right now.
There you go. That's right. I forgot
we could have been live on YouTube or live on something else, but we're here.
If we're live on YouTube, we might have made a little bit of money.
And no, because they changed their terms.
Oh, did they? Damn.
Yes.
1,000 subscribers.
Yeah, minimum. But so we're getting good numbers on Facebook Live these nights.
Yeah, here we are. Really, heaps. That's great.
So that was. I can't say it was a surprise to us because we're so talented, but
I know. And good looking, gentlemen.
Don't forget the good looking, Michael. Yeah, don't forget the good looking.
So, but yeah, the other thing, the challenge for Mark at the moment was, like, it was just gang up time because, they could just, because of the position he was in, anyone could just come forward with a question, basically. Any senator could come forward with any stupid question they wanted to.
Yeah.
So it was sort of gang up time on him. So that wasn't helping.
People were accusing him of spying and, all sorts of stuff. Like, it was pretty full on. And for a stage there, I think he was sweating a little bit, especially when espionage was sort of, brought into the arena. But, yeah. But look, again,
the other challenge.
Yeah,
sorry.
If you're going to put your life online, then expect it to have these consequences. Again, Facebook is great. My family, only my dad and a couple of my older relatives live in New South Wales. The rest of my family live in Queensland. It's the best way to communicate with them. Show them photos of my boys and stuff like that. I think I don't see the problem. Anyway, back to you.
I think the thing that we found with Facebook was the unintended information leak, the stuff that you don't expect, right?
Yep.
You don't expect the fact that you like this band and you don't like that Toyota ad and you do like this coffee brand or whatever, to add up to the fact that we know all this other seemingly unrelated stuff.
Yeah.
It comes back to that whole big data thing where you've got companies like Amazon and Facebook and Google and probably others who are just,
all
pulling together immense amounts of personal data about us.
Of course.
Yeah.
And what they can read from that. If you like a particular coffee brand, you're not going to be surprised or care if you happen to see ads for that coffee brand.
Yeah.
Who gives a flying fig, right?
Yeah.
But when they then start to use that data to work other stuff out that you would never expect to, I think that's where people don't realize what they're, they might know that they're supporting this or doing, putting photos of their kids online so that their grandparents can see them or whatever. We all do that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's the unintended leakage and the unintended leakage. The unintended sort of connections that people, that companies and businesses are able to make from that data. I think that's a little bit more concerning.
Yeah. And the other big challenge that we have now is if another company comes along, a nice startup comes along with a really good social media presence.
Yeah.
Because there's so little, Mark can just buy them. They're gone,
Yeah.
They're doing it for the money. They're not doing it for the love.
Yeah.
Well, of course, yeah. You just want to connect the world. Come on.
Yes.
Well, cool.
One big happy family.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I'm sure Julia Assange will work it out for us.
That's right.
So, how to check your Mac for 32-bit apps before Apple drops support. We recently reported that Apple is now beginning to warn users about 32-bit applications on their Mac not working in future versions of macOS. The alert that appears on the macOS is surprisingly vague and doesn't give much detail on what to do next. So follow along as we guide you through how to check which apps are currently 32-bit. So what you have to do in the top left-hand corner on the Mac is the Apple logo. Hold down the Option key of your keyboard while holding it down and click on System Information. Scroll down on the left sidebar until you get down to Software. Expand the menu if necessary, then tap Applications option. It may take a few moments for it to load, especially if you have a ton of apps. Up the top, there should be a menu option to sort by 64-bit Intel. Click on that, and now you'll have a list of apps that aren't 64-bit. They are 32-bit only. The 32-bit apps will be labeled no instead of yes. Your list will likely be fairly small, with only a handful of apps needing updates. Ironically, most of the apps that people will see are Apple apps. Apple's DVD player, the Ink server application still lacks native 64-bit support. And there are these are first-party pre-installed apps that come with every Mac. That's not all. Some apps, Mac Store apps such as Compressor, aren't updated for 64-bit systems yet as well. So, again, there's a link in the show notes, and there'll be a link on every download that you can get at the moment as well. Now, I like this.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get it done. Hang on.
Yep.
Just having a look. That's
cool.
A great tip, Michael. All right, yeah, I'm glad to see that one because won't be too long. And if a beta comes along that we install and go, oh, hang on.
Yeah. Why do they all stop working?
Yeah.
Now, this one I like. This week in Apple history. This week in 1984, we bear witness to the slow start of Macintosh when the Apple IIc, my first Apple, sells more units in one day than the Mac had in the preceding 3 months. Perhaps that's why Apple released it in a celebration called Apple II Forever. It was this week in 2001 that Apple announced a remarkable milestone, having sold the 5 millionth iMac. The iMac, which was released in 1998, had been one of the most successful computers in history. So, yes, old Bondi blue, beautiful colour.
Good old Blondo blue, yeah.
Yep. Now, I've got a couple of Siri remote shortcuts for Apple TV. So the remote's called the Siri remote. There are some different Siri remote shortcuts you can use when you're watching a movie or television show on the Apple TV. These shortcuts are taps that do different things and makes your television experience better. Movie time. So when you're watching a movie, a single tap on the Siri remote shows you how far into the movie you are and how much time is left. If you tap it again, it will show you what time you started the movie and what time will be finished. Now, you can also change the sensitivity of the remote's trackpad by going to Settings, Remotes and Devices, Touch Surface, Tracking on your Apple TV. And that's how we get there. And yes, it is handy. Sometimes you need to know how long to go, whether to go and get another beer or I've only got 10 minutes to go of the show anyway.
So go get another beer.
It is good, yeah.
Yeah, beer.
Beer.
Yeah, beer, yeah. That's right.
The answer to that question is beer.
So that's it. I've just got my little ads to go at the end and yep. Show promotion, show notes, link each week on whatever show you upload, wherever you get it from. Spotify, you just search for Aussie Mac Zone. We're in Apple News at Aussie Mac Zone. And thank you to our listeners, our sponsors and our supporters. And don't forget this week's sponsors are athwebhosting.com.au and aussietechradio.com.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Remember, gentlemen, apple a day keeps your androids away.